Hiya, and welcome to another edition of Seal of Approval, which is back on a Thursday. I know that I keep on changing around the days between like Wednesday and Thursday, so we still don't really have a consistent day anymore. But in my defense, I was really tired yesterday. And so, we actually had like Undoomed lined up for yesterday, but because I needed to sleep, we pushed it back. But so we swapped Undoomed for Trig. So,
yes,
hey, take that as you will. So
you just got to say, "Listen, you moron," and then we can.
Look, I can't compete with Undoomed's voice. That voice is.
Yeah, he does have the sexy thriller voice.
The buttermouth, yes. So speaking of Trig, Scrump's back.
I am back. Yes,
as usual. How are you?
Here I am. Pretty good. I'm just trying to make sure I've linked the stream right because I'm trying to make sure people know I'm live. Discord's been very funny. It's not embedding things for me. It's just the internet itself has been really weird. Did you notice? Basically, Google servers apparently reset themselves 2 days in a row. So.
Yeah, I mean, like YouTube went completely down last night, which which was good timing for me not doing a stream.
Funny timing is all I'm saying.
What I'm going to say, yeah. But I'm doing well, thank you. I'm doing good. We'll get Doomed on some other time.
Good. And Trig, you're back.
I am. Yes, thank you for having me back as well. It's great. Don't even have my own channel, and I keep on appearing on other people's streams.
You're turning into me.
Trump is basically just like a YouTube hermit at this point.
Eternal guest, yes.
Hopping around.
I'm like those people who like turn up at everyone's weddings and they're not quite sure if you know them or not, and then they eat all the food.
Hey, that's a great pastime. No knock it.
So we got an interesting lineup of various news to talk about this evening. So I think a lot of you are probably wondering, where are the seals of news? Where are they? Well, I can show you what they're currently up to. They're celebrating Christmas.
Oh.
For some reason, this is a sort of new. I mean, I have actually just put up my Christmas tree the other day because it's okay. I'll defend this. 2020 is shit. Christmas is good. I want some merriment and fun.
It is only a month and a half away, to be fair.
Yes,
it's not like we're doing this in October.
Yeah, I honestly consider this to be like an acceptable time to start celebrating Christmas, because
I think people who put decorations up before December are a little bit insane. But that's just me.
But what about the seals of news? They've got that. Look, there's one seal who's already opened up his present. He got a basketball, and another is just looking really confused on a chair.
Well, the seals of news exist outside of time and space, so I will allow it.
I'm loving the one with the Santa hat on as well.
He is happy. So the seals of news are celebrating Christmas this week, so then that's why they're not appearing on the stream. But why don't we start with possibly like the biggest story of the week? In particular of the world, because you guys have been following this a lot more than I have, and with the way in which even being able to speak about it, tweet about it, is seemingly getting cracked down on, and like hell, I don't even I would probably this stream itself will have some sort of warning about all of this is disputed.
Yeah, just scorecard hammer dominion. There we go. We're all
rip. Yeah, I suspect something fishy might have gone off with this last thing, but
it's like
what
saying,
do I know?
No, I can't. It's the election equivalent of saying all the slurs at once.
So last time we talked about the election, we weren't really too sure what was going on because nobody had actually been, it hadn't been called for anyone at that point. The media hadn't even called it for Biden back then, like back in the long ago of last Thursday.
The way back, the long ago, yeah.
and now the media has called it for Biden, despite him technically not even being president-elect. Like he actually doesn't have the
office of the president-elect is serious business, guys. It's serious business, and you need to give him attention.
Isn't it technically illegal for him to do that?
It is.
There's a thing. It's called the Logan Act. Yeah.
Well, it's not just the Logan Act. It's illegal to use the seal of the President of the United States or anything affiliated with it without, actually being appointed there. So to claim to be president-elect when you aren't is,
Well, if this gets overturned, we might see some interesting situations.
If this gets overturned, it's going to be fascinating to see what happens with various world leaders, including our own Boris Johnson, who I think was the first European leader to congratulate Biden over the phone.
Yeah.
And so, basically they put themselves in a very, very awkward position if Trump actually manages to get in. Because Biden's not really a friend to the UK, but Trump definitely won't be. Now he won't be. So the UK's kind of fucked, one way or another.
I'm trying to keep my fingers crossed here because, fortunately, out of the two possibilities of Boris phoning Biden and Biden phoning Boris, it was actually the latter. Biden phoned up Boris. If Boris had phoned Joe Biden up and congratulated him, that would have been Yeah,
well, it's a very transparent attempt to manufacture the appearance that he's won the election when he actually hasn't. It's interesting because before the election, they said, we need to make sure we're comfortable with the fact that it will take days or possibly weeks to call the election because it could be close. And that now that it's not been called, they're saying, Joe Biden's president, even though technically he isn't. So they're doing exactly what they said Trump would do.
Yep.
Basically.
But we all knew that was exactly the way that they were going to play it. There was always going to be the way. I mean, they sowed these kind of seeds of doubt that Trump is going to, Trump's not going to leave the White House. He's going to contest it. We're going to have there's going to be a coup. They're using all this kind of alarmist language, basically putting it into a position where unless Trump, the only way that Trump wouldn't be seen as an agitator is if he concedes, even if he won the popular vote or even if he won the Electoral College, to be specific. This was always primed to make Trump the agitator, the bad guy, no matter what kind of actions he took. And so over the last week, I know you, Scrump, have been following this a lot because we talked about it.
Very closely, yes.
We talked about it a number of times, and so I think it would be good to, because I'm sure that I know that I have quite a varied viewer base, and this includes people on the left and people on the right, and so and especially I've got a lot of followers who absolutely really, really hate Orange Boy, and so it might help to kind of explain to people exactly what it is that the Trump administration is contesting, and what kind of evidence there actually is.
Well, the big one that's happened really, a lot of it is a bit of back and forth. But what's happening is that this week, actually yesterday, Georgia announced that they were going to not only recount their votes because the race is so close there, but they were going to audit their vote. Here's an AP News story. I'll try and, I know there's a lot of more reputable news source people out there and a lot of mainstream media aren't reporting on it. But the fact of the matter is that the situation in Georgia is so unclear that the state is being not only recounted, but they are recanvassing, which means they are getting in contact with the counties again and asking them to show them their voter rolls. They are basically doing the election over from scratch.
Yeah, I heard about this. That sounds really, really strange. Why is it specifically that they're doing that? Because it sounds almost like There's some people almost re-campaigning.
No, they're not recampaigning. Recanvassing. Recanvassing means that they're getting the voter roll information back from the counties. They're basically going back to the county level and say, give us your voter information, give us your operative information, give us, who was campaigning, when, where, how, what, where were your polling stations, basically the canvassing information they're getting back from the state.
Okay, that makes more sense, because when I hear the word canvassing, I associate that with campaigning.
No. It's a recanvass of the counties by the state kind of thing. It's a bit of a technicality there, but no, it's a recanvass, a recount, and most crucially, it's an audit. So it's a full audit. It's a hand tally. They're not just going back to the voting machines. This is very important because there's been a large amount of, let's be generous and say, incongruities in the Georgia vote. I'll send you a tweet here. This information has been confirmed by multiple people. The media isn't really reporting on it because it's not proof of fraud, but it's a very heavy indicator of fraud. That in Georgia, there were 283,000 ballots in Georgia that only had a vote on them for Joe Biden. They didn't vote for any senators. They didn't vote for any Congress people. They didn't vote for any state senators. They didn't vote for any, there was nothing there in the gubernatorial races. There was nothing there for any other elected official apart from Joe Biden.
So what was the total votes in Georgia? What kind of percentage is that 283,000? Because that would be pretty eye-opening if it because I'm assuming that it isn't going to be a landslide for Biden.
Georgia election results. It's why is the first thing that comes up the fucking Telegraph? That's terrible. The information's Google's really rearranged itself recently, which I've found
interesting.
Interesting. They're making this information actually harder to get hold of.
Ooh, gee.
It used to pop up. It used to pop up straight away. There's about just under 5 million votes. So 268,000 is about 5% of the vote.
Wow.
Which is a significant amount.
That is. And meanwhile, Trump's such a small fraction that you're barely even going to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Joe Biden only won by supposedly only won by 30,000 votes as well.
Wow.
Actually, no, it's lower than that. No, it's less than 20,000.
We actually know people in Georgia that voted in person, took photos of them voting, and then later checked and found their vote had not been registered.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
so
God.
there's all manner of nonsense going off there that I've actually had confirmed by people that we actually know as well. It's not just hearsay and third party information. This is it's wild what's gone off.
There's supposed to be 2 runoff elections as well for the state Senate. That probably won't actually end up deciding the Senate because the Republicans appear to have held their 50, and they will get another one somewhere along the line, whether it is Purdue or it's going to end up deciding the Senate, but not really, if you know what I mean.
Right.
It's a case of a lot of people are getting a little bit nervous in the Democratic Party because they're not going to have the Senate, and there's also the congressional races too, in which they lost a whole bunch of seats. They don't really have a workable majority in Congress anymore. Let me have a look because it is changing basically hourly, but all the Republicans basically won all the toss-ups. So they've gained. Let's have a look. There's so much fluff out there right now. State Senate, Congress. Yes, the 51, 48. Yeah. There is, So the Republicans have gained 6 seats in the House. The Democrats have lost 5, and I think 1 independent has gone. Right. So, and it's 218 in the House, and all of the toss-up races still to go. Basically, it looks like the Democrats will only have a majority of maybe 3 seats. There's only 1, 2. Yeah, there's only really 3, I think, races here that have not been called yet that are still trending near blue.
Right.
So they're going to have a 3-seat majority, which is nothing. There's also a lot of quote unquote red state Democrats. And the problem is if Georgia is recounted and they find major voter fraud, which I suspect they will, these nearly 300,000 magic votes are incredibly suspect. And from what I've been told, they were actually put in there using either election software or voting machine software. So they won't have the receipts for them. They won't actually have paper copies. So a hand paper audit of the election is actually a really bad scenario for the Democrats.
Well, yeah, because it's not even, the normal election counters. This should be done by, if I'm right, is it the DHS will be doing the
I think they'll be overseeing part of it. They quote unquote provide resources, but there's going to be tighter security because it's not only a recount, it is an audit. There's also the fact that Trump has filed suit in both Pennsylvania and Michigan to stop them certifying the results. There's been a suit filed, I also think, in Wisconsin privately. There's a recount still going ahead in Arizona. Arizona still actually hasn't officially, from what I can tell, hasn't actually reported all its counties yet. What does it say here? 99% reporting. Yeah, but it's within 0.3%, so they go back into their automatic recount process. And again, Arizona is another state where there has been reports of illegals voting. There's been all kinds of reports of election fraud going on there.
As someone's just said in the chat, it's not a recount, it's a retally. What would be the difference between a recount and a retally?
I don't actually know what they mean by that. Is that Georgia or Arizona?
Georgia.
It's a recount. They're calling it a recount, so I don't know what else I can really say. They're using the term recount themselves. So I mean, I don't know what they mean by that. That seems weird.
It seems like a semantics argument.
Yeah, it seems like a semantics thing. Like I said, they're saying recount, Recanvass and audit. So
right, okay. So you mentioned about like the various kind of legal cases that are going to be coming out. Are there any due to come out tomorrow? Do you remember? Like, I think I heard like at the end of the week is when it's going to kind of blow up a bit more.
What I've been told is that next week, there's a weird technicality where there's kind of a 10-day period where the state level attorney generals are supposed to sort out any allegations of election fraud or election tampering. And after that period, the attorney general, Bill Barr, can come in. He's already basically announced that the criminal investigation is underway. And he's allowed his operatives in the Department of Justice and to look into any, he says, credible instances of voter fraud. He's advised them not to go down rabbit holes of rumors, obviously. But what he said is that he's allowing them to look at any instances of voter fraud. Let me get an article up on that because there's quite a few.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of people resigning over it. There's a lot of news anger here. Basically, the Guardian says Bill Barr authorizes baseless voter fraud investigation.
Yes,
top prosecutor quits at the Barr election fraud orders. Bill Barr fraud inflames tensions with anti-corruption prosecutors, and there's a lot of resistiveness here, but there's not really a lot they can do.
It's very interesting the way all of this has been reported. So first of all, when it came to kind of voter fraud, the line was just, oh, there's no voter fraud. Then it became widespread voter fraud. And so they already shifted the bar. And then when you have Bill Barr, so basically, like you said, he wasn't saying, oh, they're going to look into everything, or even, he didn't even necessarily name any specific instances. He just mentioned, credible sources. And yet that seems to be enough to get the lamestream media, as Trump would call them, and into really partisan reporting on the matter, because the way everyone's reporting this is it's all baseless. Everything's baseless, despite little evidence, baseless accusations. So it's like they're doing activism within their reporting. They can't just seem to say allegations. They can't just claim allegation. And bear in mind, they often... Wait, why is my computer frozen? There we go.
We can still hear you. We can still hear you. It's okay.
Okay, great. So yeah, they damn it, my train of thought just went. God damn it. My point is that the way in which this is being reported is as though they already knew what line that they were going to take in the first place. They're not treating this as like a no partisan issue. Like, there is a clear and implicit bias in the way all of this is being covered. And should the investigation dig anything up significant, again, all this is doing is just sowing the seeds of doubt in people. And so when Trump, if Trump is able to get some wins out of it, the narrative will shift to he is now attacking democracy. Like, they've effectively just given it all to Biden, and any kind of threat to Biden's rule is going to be fiercely resisted.
Well, okay. What I would tell people is that if this was a ridiculous no-hope effort by Donald Trump and he was going rogue, the Republican Party, the Republican establishment would try and kibosh it. They would not back him up. But a lot of the people who blow with the wind in the Republican Party, people like Mitch McConnell, people like what's the other?
Lindsey Graham.
Lindsey Graham. Yes, the South Carolina Lindsey Graham. Even people like Mr. Magic Underwear, Mitt Romney, the presidential prophet. He came out and criticized him early on, but now he's very much stum, and he's also put out some statements that seem to soften his position. So a lot of the even never Trumpers seem to be either silent or backtracking on this, and a lot of the blow with the wind establishment Democrats have actually come out quite strongly in support for Trump, which is because I think that they know what's coming down the pipeline. They know that this is not only going to be criminal proceedings, this is going to be, not only civil proceedings, but this is going to end up with criminal proceedings, which we will see, I've been told, reliably, either Friday or Monday. We will see those largely unsealed. So there's this big gulf between the media saying that Donald Trump has no hope, his lawsuits are a joke, they've already been thrown out, even though they're reporting on them as they proceed. There's this really weird thing where a lot of the media has reported that all of his lawsuits have been thrown out, and then they're reporting on, the proceeding of his lawsuits. It's bizarre.
Well, there's also the guy who did was it the sworn affidavit? Have I said that right? I can't.
Affidavit, yes.
Yes. And so I think it was the Washington Post reported that he'd completely recanted, only for him to then go on video and completely reject that and ask for the Washington Post to pull down that piece. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did. I actually, for my sins, listened through the 2-hour Veritas Raw, basically transcribed version of the interview where he apparently recanted and didn't. The interview between him, who is an ex-Marine working for the mail, the post office service in America, was being interviewed by he was working for the UP, the United States Postal Service, but he was an ex Air Force intelligence operative. And it was a long interview. It was 2 hours, but it was iffy. He was being led, he did not recant. Is all I'm saying. He was actually very, very clear on what had happened over and over again. Regardless, the Washington Post went and said he'd recanted.
Well, it was a setup. What happened is this agent came in, pressured him. Really, really violated his civil rights, I would say. He wasn't allowed a lawyer present. He tried to cooperate, and he didn't recant. You can listen to the audio, like you said. I've heard snippets. I've had people like you review it. I've not heard the full audio myself because it's 2 hours long.
It wasn't so much he was pressured. He was just led by the guy. And what's worse is the guy actually made him sign, or asked him to sign, led him through a document, and had him sign a document that said he wasn't being coerced. in the first 10 minutes of the interview, and then went on for the next hour and 40 minutes that literally coerced him into recounting.
I mean, he even says at several points, like, I am purposely putting pressure on you.
Yeah.
Like,
it's classic interrogation technique. He was there as his friend. He was there to support him. He wanted to make sure that he didn't leave himself open for any legal ramifications, because that could be very serious for him. And they just tried to whittle the story down to nothing all the way through it. It was, it was definitely listening to an expert interrogator trying to destroy and debunk his story as it went. But boy, was it long though. And the end of it, when the guy says, "Oh, I've been recording this," the change in attitude right there, because he literally admits that he's been recording it to the interviewer in the last 10 minutes, suddenly everything changes on him.
Yeah.
He is still trying to be his friend, but you definitely know it's getting a bit more antagonistic, and they pretty much end it there and then. We're not happy about being recorded. So, yeah, it's lies, and if this plot gets any thicker, it's going to be concrete. Frankly, it's craziness out there. I've just tried to link you. That was actually a meme that
I think I got it up.
Have you got it?
Yes,
it's up on the screen there.
Excellent. Sorry,
it's a meme.
Many places, looking all over the internet. But it's not a bad roadmap. It seems to be running fairly true at the moment.
Yeah.
We're getting there. We are getting there. Again, this is the media saying that Trump's lawsuits have no basis. It's the same media that was saying that Joe Biden was going to win by 17 points.
Yeah.
So take it as you will with a grain of salt.
It's also the same people that for the last 4 years have been moaning that the last election was
rigged. Yes.
Was rigged.
Oh yeah. Well, yes, it's the same. It's the same people who like the amount of Ramonas that I've seen condemning the way that Trump's acting when they were openly in support of Gina Miller's, Supreme Court or whatever it's called over here, legal challenges, openly supportive of people's vote, overturning Brexit. And then they effectively the likes of Democrats and the Remainers they've effectively used a nuke. They've used a nuclear option when you start to use baseless accusations to kind of overturn or make a election null and void. And so they've been doing that for the last 4 years. And so they even if Trump was completely in the wrong to follow this, to file any kind of lawsuits, even if he was just doing it simply for his own stubbornness, and there wasn't even any kind of circumstantial evidence. It all came out of nowhere. They would still not be in a position to criticize them, because that's exactly what they did with Russia, and it's exactly what they did with Brexit. The legal cases that have come out about the campaigns for both of those things turned up absolutely nothing, when we were repeatedly told that these were, these had subverted democracy, that these had attacked democracy, But of course, they also had the additional benefit of, well, the people who voted for it are really thick, as the Democrats and the Remainers basically just sat around sniffing each other's farts because they're that high and mighty. Yeah. And so they have absolutely there's no high ground for them in this. Trump's completely right to follow it. And hell, have you seen the way in which the Democrats are kind of acting now? They're claiming to have won. I mean, you have Biden saying, "Oh, now we need to call for unity. Now we need everyone to come together and kind of come as one." When for the last 4 years, I'm not saying that Trump hasn't been a divisive figure. Of course he has, but the Democrats have been just as divisive, if not more so.
Yeah, I think Trump wouldn't have been as divisive as he has been if it wasn't for the fact that the press literally started it.
Yeah. I wouldn't have the same kind of sympathies that I do for Trump were it not for the repeated smears, the repeated attacks, and it kind of comes out of everyone. And it isn't even just an attack on Trump. It's an attack on conservatism. It's an attack on the people who dare vote for Trump, or even the people who simply tolerate him. Not so much the people who think God Emperor, like have that kind of 4D chess levels of Trump admiration. But when the default position is considered to be you hate Trump, like that gives a real that like helps foster a really hostile political atmosphere. And and hell, even when you have Biden calling for now we need unity, you have people like AOC and other prominent Democrat supporters starting these various Trump lists. And then you have Lincoln Project openly doxing some of Trump's lawyers.
They did. Losing their checkmark and getting themselves nuked in the process. Yes.
Yeah. They basically got a bunch of their tweets nuked. I think a couple of people are saying they didn't have a checkmark. I'm pretty sure they did have a checkmark.
I think they did.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they did.
I think they did.
I seem to remember they did, but either way, they don't have one now. But yeah, the thing is, the election was fishy. Everyone was calling for. Everyone sort of sat there at 4 a.m. going, "What the hell is that spike?" There's every reason to do an investigation. And looking back over the last 4 years, yes, Trump has been a bit of a dick, and he's said some things that have annoyed some people. But even when I've challenged people that really don't like him, friends and family and so on, they have an awful lot of difficulty finding anything that he's actually done that was bad in any way, shape, or form. I mean, you get the Abraham Accords, the trying to have peace with North Korea, the shutting down wars across the Middle East.
Well, the big one that I always hear is about trans healthcare, which is something which I don't think a lot of his critics even understand what he was doing. I mean, that's something which we've discussed. I think we even discussed it on the stream like months ago. It wasn't a case of, they're making it legal for trans people to be discriminated against. All they were doing was effectively crossing off a technicality that never came into power in the first place. Like it was a weird one there. It was
not a big deal, and it was you're right. It was extremely misleading the way people talked about it.
Yeah, and of course you also had the trans military, which is something that I am kind of a little bit conflicted on, but I find it quite weird when you have leftists openly calling for the United States Army to allow trans people into it, considering a lot of them are generally against the United States Army anyway.
They don't particularly like the military, do they?
No.
And
so, but even then, I remember looking into that, and one of the reasons why trans people were allowed to serve previously was due to an Israeli study, which wasn't even a fully, it wasn't even like a proper like verified study. I don't know the exact terms that people use.
Peer reviewed, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't peer reviewed.
Really,
it was a lot of it was just kind of.
Oh no.
Anyway. No.
You want to get the stream shut down.
But I don't really have much feelings either way, as far as I'm concerned. If someone's capable of passing the fitness test, is capable of operating in a unit cohesively and can fight, I'm kind of all for them. If they want to do that, then let them. I mean, it's not like there isn't sort of people of all, well, mostly, let's face it, mostly male have always been in the army. But there are always outliers, and they've usually done very, very well if they're good enough. But that last proviso is a very, very important one.
I mean, I would say that if somebody is openly transitioning, they shouldn't be in the military anyway, because they've got other things to deal with. I would say if someone... Yeah, but if somebody has fully transitioned, and so they've had whatever surgeries they're going to have or anything like that, provided they're fit enough, I would see no problem for them to serve in the military.
A lot of it was also due to the demands that were made when it came to healthcare and allowances, and a lot of the arguments I saw, and I think they actually do hold a lot of water, is that a lot of the leftist activists made having trans people in the army more trouble than it was worth. And that's a large part of why they just said, right, no more trans people in the army.
Yeah.
Because they...
I think it was their plan all along.
I don't know.
As awkward as possible for trans. Like, I mean, it wouldn't. I mean, hell, a lot of their activism does just that. Makes things as awkward for us as possible that people turn on us.
Well, it's kind of like the whole being trans is not a mental illness thing, and then it stops being covered by people's healthcare, and then they get mad about it.
Yeah,
it's like, well, if it's not a mental illness,
it's like if it's medical. If it's not a medical, I keep on having to explain this to people. If it's not a medical condition, then no, it's not going to be covered by the NHS or your insurance because it's not a medical condition. Simply you saying it makes me like I want this because otherwise I'll feel bad isn't enough to justify like actual medical expenses. Like that only justifies you spending money on yourself. But but then a lot of them seem to live in this. Like I think it kind of links into why a lot of them might kind of lean more socialist in that they just think, well, the state will give it to me. But then they don't understand that the state is always going to prioritize like the medical care. Like even in the perfect socialist utopia, they're still going to be prioritizing various medical procedures. And somehow I doubt transition care is going to be at the top of it when you're dealing with like heart attacks and cancer. That's all I'm saying.
You have to prioritize a little, don't you, at some point?
Yeah, there has to be prioritization in a healthcare system. And a lot of that doesn't go towards things like gender therapy, unfortunately, because it's quite a niche thing. Most people don't end up having it.
Yeah.
So,
and again, this is why I keep on telling people go private, because trans healthcare is never going to be great on the NHS. It's impossible for it to be great because it doesn't have the kind of demands and it's very expensive as it is with a system that, let's face it, isn't that, no matter how much we clap for it, it really isn't that great. So just go private.
I think it just kind of stinks.
A friend of mine's recently come out and is like starting a transition, and I keep on telling them that go on the NHS, but instead it's like, no, it's just going to be too expensive. Like it isn't. When you actually, if you just want your like initial appointments, you're talking a few £100, but you can save that up in less than half the time it takes to actually get a proper NHS appointment, which at the moment the waiting time is 32 months. It's gone down. It's gone down.
It's gone down to 32 months.
Yeah, I know, right?
Jesus Christ. That's a hell of a waiting list.
It's fucking horrendous. It's absolutely horrendous. But people keep on just choosing the NHS because they don't want to spend their own money. Because they now just get the free stuff, thanks. Like, well, okay, well, don't complain if it takes too long. Because you had the option. It's something that really annoys me. I want more people to actually kind of take the initiative themselves and do it. Like, if you were talking a few months wait, then fine. Like, I completely get that because that's what I did. But it's a very different time compared to now. And hell, I use private healthcare for other things, so I'm not a hypocrite. So,
no, like, I've been a strong advocate for private healthcare for a long time. I mean, for a start, I mean, to be honest, if I could opt out of the NHS, if I didn't have to pay that national health or that couple of £100 a month sometimes, and instead pay 50 quid to Bupa and get better care.
And Bupa's more expensive than 50 quid.
What a lot of young people don't realize as well is that as they get older, the amount that they pay for the NHS, even though they quote unquote don't see it, they are paying a large chunk of their pay to the NHS. I mean, I worked out 1 year when I made a decent amount of money that I ended up paying between just between income tax and national insurance. I paid £13,000.
Yeah,
that came directly out of my pay. So.
Can well believe it, and it's not just that though. It's also your taxes on anything you might buy in the shop. Chunk of that goes to the NHS. The NHS, it was back in the late 90s or early 2000s. We worked it out that the NHS was basically 1/3 supported by cigarette tax because they were banging on about wanting to stop people that smoked from having NHS treatment, and it was like we're literally funding the NHS at that point because.
Yeah, and it's generally beyond reform now anyway, because the only kind of politically safe response to anything concerning the NHS is just throw more money at it.
Yes,
That's the only that's the only response any politician wants to give. Even if the Tories are being constantly accused of, they're about to sell off our NHS. We have 30 days to sell off our NHS. Like that's the line that Labour has been using since 1995. It's still not happened because the Tories know, especially when we've seen this year with the amount of NHS flags up. Like when I went back to my parents for a few weeks before I moved into my new place, there were people who actually had full on professional looking light sets up with "We love our NHS." Big fluorescent bulbs, and some of them are actually quite detailed. So the people who got these spent a lot of money to let everyone around them know how much they love our NHS.
Yeah,
and so it is almost like a religion. So there isn't anything you can do to reform it apart from throw more money at it, and all that's going to do is just make the problem much more painful in the long term. I'm just very, very skeptical of the. I get the appeal of it, and I think if you don't kind of think about where the money comes from, it sounds great. And the principle of it, because I don't like the idea of people going, financially bankrupt because they have cancer.
Yeah.
But if you only think of it in them terms, you're missing a much larger picture, which is that the NHS as it is simply not sustainable. It can't. We've got this. Hell, it's being managed by the same kind of government that's made an absolute shambles out of COVID.
Yeah.
Do you really want it kind of goes back to the school dinners thing from the other week.
We did talk about that, didn't we? About
do you really want this government feeding your children and they can't even do put together a simple test and trace? But they're physically incapable of doing that.
No, I had a spat on Twitter earlier this year.
Oh no!
I know. Me having an argument with someone on Twitter is almost unthinkable. But it was a chain of hospitals had offered the NHS the use of their beds, private hospitals, and said we will let the NHS have the use of our beds for I think the cost worked out to be £300 per bed per day.
Yes, it was.
And I had a massive argument for somebody who was saying the NHS should just seize this is outrageous that they're charging this.
Seize the beds of production.
I worked out the NHS beds cost in any NHS hospital cost £450 per day to run, which means we would actually be better off closing down the NHS hospitals and just letting the NHS as an entity rent beds of private hospitals. We'd be saving ourselves £150 per bed per day across the country. It would actually be cheaper to literally have the NHS as a financial entity that just rented from private hospitals.
I mean,
it's crazy.
I think so much of it is just simply the sounds of it. It's it's going private. It's no longer ours, it's somebody else's. But if it's somebody else's, then they're more driven to make it sustainable. Then if it's a government-run program, there's no incentive for anyone to manage it properly because it's always going to be somebody else's responsibility.
Well, if the public sector was more productive, we'd never have a private sector.
Yes,
because every time something was nationalized, it'd be amazing, and no one would ever go back. The 70s wouldn't have happened.
It sounds like communism to me.
Yes, it's amazing how many countries tried socialism and then went back.
Literally all of them, I think. I mean, you could say China is.
I don't think Venezuela's gone back just yet.
No, but they just keep plummeting further and further down a hole.
Just before we continue,
have you seen that episode of The Simpsons where Homer just keeps falling down that canyon?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, ow,
yeah. And then they hit him on the way up again too.
Yeah. Dan, that's right. The ambulance then comes, picks him up, puts him in the back of the ambulance, rams into a tree, and then off he goes straight back down again. Yeah.
Oh, it's pretty great.
So I've got some super chats to read before we continue.
Ooh, nice.
So Dominator with $1 Australian. I think you might have put a
single dollar-y do.
A single dollar with the dollar-y do. like I think you might have used like a sticker with that, but it does for some reason it's not even showing in YouTube Studio, which is weird. But thank you, EC90 with the £2. The fraud is obvious. See Dr. Shiva's maths videos. I have not seen that. Have you?
I can't say I have. I've seen an awful lot of evidence. I totally agree. Yes, the fraud is obvious. The graphs do not do vertical lines when voting, when tabulating votes like that. And what was it, Benford's law as well? Just which they rewrote on Wikipedia the day after.
Doominator again with $5 redos. Yes. Just letting you know that Sophia Norwitz killed a seal in her Assassin's Creed Valhalla stream. Sophia Norwitz is now banned from Seal of Approval for harm to virtual seals. Like, I was honestly kind of thinking of getting Assassin's Creed Valhalla when I saw the seals, but like, if you actually have to kill them, I'm not getting it. Because I'm not killing virtual seals. It's just disappointment. Sophia needs to, she needs to apologize for this gross miscarriage of justice against seals. Gary Thomas with the $5. Hey Rose, I know your content. I live in Georgia and the media is really not reporting on everything happening with the voter recounts. That does not surprise me.
Nope. Yeah, we've seen geolocation locks on videos. Literally, America can't see videos that we're seeing over here regarding their election.
That's pretty terrifying.
Breaking news. Whilst we've been on air, the judge has ordered that the segregated ballots in Pennsylvania should not have been counted. That is significant because a lot of the ballots were not segregated. The original decision to segregate the ballots only came out basically after the election. And they had counted a huge amount of ballots that were postmarked or had arrived after November 3rd. So any ballot that basically did not arrive on November 3rd is now, by the court order here, it's going to end up going to the Supreme Court because the Democrats are going to appeal it. But Pennsylvania is now very much in play. This is actually possibly bigger news than the Georgia recount because they also said that the Secretary of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania lacked the authority to issue the November 1st, 2020 guidance to respondent county boards elections as so far as the guidance purported to the change of deadline of the election. So Pennsylvania, they've ruled that their secretary, the Secretary of the Commonwealth in charge of the election did not have the authority to say that these votes should be counted, which is really bad. Like they've doubly slapped them down for this. Judge Levitt, president judge in Pennsylvania, has basically voided possibly a large amount of Pennsylvania's vote. Pennsylvania's vote will very likely have to be audited now because there is a huge amount of evidence that these ballots were not segregated properly and that the order to segregate them came too late to affect many of them who were mixed together with regular ballots. They're going to have to ascertain which ballots arrived after the June 3rd and which didn't, and which were postmarked and which weren't. They're going to have to audit their election like Georgia, it looks like. And if they do, they may end up in the same situation where there are hundreds of thousands of votes which don't actually have a paper backup to them, or have been discarded, or are just rendered void because they are not like legal ballots for some technical reason. So we now have both Georgia and Pennsylvania in play. And with Arizona the way it is, with Arizona uncalled by many media outlets and looking like it's going to flip, this could very well give Trump the election. This is the path to victory they said he didn't have.
Yeah, well, if he gets Pennsylvania and Georgia, it's almost all over at that point. I don't have a map up exactly, but it was essentially, as long as they get, was it Nevada or Arizona, Pennsylvania and Georgia, then that puts them over the 270.
Yes, and any audits, the thing is states have to keep ballots for 2 years legally.
Right.
And they actually found a whole bunch of them discarded recently, which is not a good sign.
So what people seem to be saying in the responses, maybe you might be able to get a bit of info on this. A lot of people are saying that these segregated ballots have been set aside and not counted.
Yes. Yes. The thing is, though, there are a lot of reports that the ballots were not actually segregated.
Right.
The order to segregate them only came after November 3rd.
Right. And so it would be, so when he's saying segregated ballots, that would include the ones that were mixed in with the...
Yes, there's a huge amount of accusations that postal workers were backdating ballots like they were in Michigan. There's a large amount of accusations that ballots were simply not segregated when they were told to, in violation of the original court order. But the key piece of guidance there is that the Secretary of State of the election did not have the authority to tell them to count ballots after the 3rd.
Right.
And that the state legislature should have had control over the way the election was run. So this empowers further the Republican state legislature. What people aren't really paying attention to is the precedent here and the further implications this could have. That, yes, Pennsylvania is saying there are a very small amount of these segregated ballots. But in contrast to that, a lot of people who helped out the election are saying that there were a huge amount of these ballots that were not actually segregated. So in order to settle that, they may have to audit the votes, because if they can prove that even if there is a small amount of these ballots mixed in with the rest of the mail-in ballots, the margin is quite small in Pennsylvania. And if it's something like 30,000 votes, that could swing the election. So this in of itself, you're right. On the face of it, the segregated ballots thing isn't as important as I seem to make it out to be. But the big thing here is that this could be a vector that they use to force a recount and audit, like in Georgia.
Which could potentially flip it over to Trump.
It could not only flip it over to Trump, it could also expose a massive amount of systematic voter fraud, which would start to have knock-on effects in, say, Michigan or Wisconsin, or even places like Nevada and Virginia. Even though they're not suing there, not focusing on those, if the election ends up going into court and there is a huge amount of voter fraud found in the recounts and the audits, Trump may push for them to basically audit the entire election, like nationwide, basically, to root out all of this voter fraud. Sorry, go on.
That would just be insane. Like, how long would that take? Because it all has to be wrapped up by 12th of December, does it not?
Not necessarily. No, Al Gore only conceded on the 13th. And the state legislatures, Pennsylvania has a Republican state legislature, and the state legislatures can simply refuse to start the process of choosing the electors. They can delay this. They can take this back. They can take this beyond the wire, basically. Michigan also has a Republican state legislature. I think so does Arizona, if I'm correct. So a lot of these states, if the state legislature, if the state Congress isn't happy with the results, it is written in the Constitution, Article 2, that the state legislatures are the ones who choose the time and method of sending the electors. So they can just refuse. They have a nuclear option. They can trigger, the second nightmare scenario, which is the Congress, quote unquote, choosing, which basically means each state gets a vote. In that stage, Trump wins, and the Senate decides on the vice president. And guess what? The Republicans have retained the Senate. So that also means that would be Trump and Pence. So there are a couple of paths to victories here.
How likely do you think it actually is that Trump could overturn this?
I think it's, with what we're seeing, it's more and more likely by the day.
Yeah.
So who do you think come January, who do you think is going to be sitting in the White House?
I think
Tangerine Terror.
I think it's going to be Trump, personally. They said there was no way he could even make this election close, and they're still not certified states. That the election is still going on. So they were wrong about the 10-point lead. They were wrong about his margin in all the swing states. They were wrong about everything. And now they are wrong about the legal proceedings. I think there's an extremely good chance that Trump gets into the White House. We aren't even seeing all of it yet. Yes, the affidavits look bad. Yes, all the lawsuits are proceeding. And yes, the lawsuits will end up in the Supreme Court. But we have not seen the criminal angle of it yet. And what's going to happen is that once those doors start getting kicked, we may end up with testimony from Democrat poll workers and election officials themselves, they may roll, and they may end up signing affidavits that say that they cheated in the election to stop them from serving too much prison time. That I think that is the next angle we're going to see in this. But I don't know. We should probably move on to a different topic now. We've been talking about the election for nearly an hour solid.
I know, right? So there was something else which you guys wanted to talk about in particular. Something which I haven't been following that much, but Trig, you've been reading up on it all day. And
yes,
this is something which is quite important for us to really kind of talk about.
It's it's absolutely deeply terrifying. Earlier this year, the Tories have tried to put through a bill through Parliament. Let me just dig up everything. So I've got it called the Covert Human Intelligence Sources Bill, the Criminal Conduct Bill of 2019, and it is essentially a set of amendments to pre-existing bills. The RIPA Act, which is
the RIPA Act.
Yeah, I know. It
sounds like an Australian
Regulatory Investigatory Powers Act of 2000. What, in brief, it means, and I've looked into this, and we've even got tweets from the House of Commons Human Rights Committee, literally saying what I've been saying is this act allows any agent of the state of the United Kingdom. Now, it's not just police, it's not just MI5, not just MI6, but also the Food Standards Agency and the Environment Agency to conduct illegal acts without criminal repercussion. And as the
Trig?
Yep, sorry. I've got a massive echo then for a second. I could hear myself talking, and
right. Okay.
I just had to stop and listen.
It's me.
It's me. Glorious me. Yeah, it essentially the where was the tweet itself? Here we go. The Human Rights Committee said it should be added to the bill that clear limits on the scale and type of criminality which is authorized. We cannot pass a law that leaves open the possibility of state-sanctioned rape, murder, and torture. Now that's a whole list of different sort of agencies that are covered under this. That basically they cannot do anything wrong. It is Stasi/KGB level of powers. And it's made its way straight through the House of Commons with only, bless their hearts, is the one few times you will hear me say this, but the Lib Dems have stood up for everyone's rights. They're the only ones that have. Labour basically abstained, and it's run through, and it is now at its second reading as of yesterday in the House of Lords. Even though the Parliament Human Rights Committee said, good God, no, this is awful, this is making its way through the House of Lords. Now it could be law by next year if somebody doesn't do something about it. And I mean, when I say somebody, I mean we've got to raise hell right now and let the Lords know that they've got to kick this thing back to the Commons. Because at this point, basically the police could, do whatever the hell they like to you and face no repercussions whatsoever. In theory. I mean, we hope, touch wood, that they won't, but, laws are always overextended. I think, they always get pushed. There's always a copper kicking somebody off their front garden, during the COVID thing, even though that wasn't the law. So,
I mean, I was about to mention that. I mean, we've seen so much overstretch in regards to lockdown. And what's more, we've seen how willing the government is to take away people's liberties. And so when you combine everything which the government has been doing over the last year with this new bill, like, imagine telling someone this time last year that all of this will be happening under a Boris Johnson government. Like, you'd accuse them of scaremongering. Like, a lot of people
did celebrate when Boris was elected because they thought it was going to be a change.
No, this is
I
weird.
was guilty of that. I was a big fan of Boris.
I was as well. I think this is one of the reasons why I hate him so much, because I feel very, very personally betrayed. Like I wouldn't necessarily say I have like Boris derangement syndrome or anything like that. I can still kind of think logically about the guy, but yeah, he is so much worse. Like I'm very tempted to say a lot of the like the scaremongering Labour supporters might have been right.
Well, I suspect, and this is me sticking my tinfoil hat on, and if I could do an Alex Jones voice, I'd give it a go. But I actually
what do you want to say there, Trig?
Yeah, well, I actually think Boris was kind of noble. I think they kind of got to him when he had COVID. He changed. After that, he totally changed. That was it. It was old Boris gone, and now it was harsh lockdowns.
The new Boris. Different than the old Boris.
He was there talking about, oh, my handlers won't like me saying this. I was sat there going, why has the Prime Minister got handlers?
Why are you talking about your handlers, my dude?
You're supposed to be in charge. What's this handler nonsense?
What's this handler stuff? What's going on, big guy?
Yeah. I am very, very concerned what's happened to the Tory government. I mean, let's be fair. The Tories and Labour have been almost indistinguishable for the last 20 to 30 years anyway, thanks to New Labour, etc. And that's been an absolute horror show.
Yeah, what flavour of neocon or neolib do you want, my dude? It's basically just been that.
Let's just wind it back to 86.
Oh, you've disappeared there, Trig.
I think he's disappeared.
Oh, no.
No. He's dead. Just whilst he was in like mid rant.
Oh, am I back?
Oh, you're back.
Damn it!
Yes,
I'm back now. Right, sorry. That's weird. I've had some issues with my internet, but I could hear you then, so it might be a microphone issue. But yes, no, I rolled it back to 86. Halfway through or towards the end of Margaret Thatcher's era, she started going a little off the walls after 86. With a few laws that, I'd wind it all the way back to there, undo the signing up to the EEC and the EU, and take it from there.
I just want to just address this one. Would Labour have been just as bad, judging by the manifesto? Yeah, they would.
Worse, possibly worse.
Worse. But the difference here is we can talk about the kind of the hypotheticals of how Corbyn would have dealt with COVID, and I think that he would have had, all of his fan base would have thought like anything he does will be incredible. I mean, these are the same people who read the anti-Semitism investigation. They read that and just thought like, no, there was no institutionalized anti-Semitism. Corbyn's been cleared. When if you actually read the document, it was incredibly scathing of Labour. So like those people would follow him no matter what. I do think that Corbyn would have handled COVID terribly, and you would have used it as a perfect example to basically implement a full-on socialist agenda. However, that's not that, but like we can talk about like, yes, it probably would have been worse, but it doesn't change the fact that the reality that we live in, Boris could have handled this better, but it
would have been John McDonnell though, because Boris got COVID, right?
Right.
So if we have the same timeline, that means Magic Commie Grandpa would have got COVID, and it would have probably yeeted him. Because he's a prime candidate in the top risk zone, and which would have meant we would have ended up with, what was it, John McDonnell?
Well, so's Trump. So's Trump. Trump's a prime candidate, and look at how he smashed it down.
Yeah, but look at Trump in stature and size next to Corbyn. Corbyn's a wizened old man. Trump's a gigantic powerhouse of a bloke. It would have got Corbyn. Certainly with the way it knocked 7 shades of whatever out of Boris. Boris did not look well when he came out of that.
No.
Corbyn would have probably been done for. So he might have got lucky, kind of. But yes, we might have had John McDonnell as Prime Minister, which would have been nightmarish.
Yeah,
nightmarish.
Corbyn wasn't the scary one. McDonnell was.
Yeah.
McDonnell was easily the more terrifying one. I mean, like Corbyn just associated himself with nutters, which you could say is one of his kind of biggest problems. Whereas John McDonnell didn't just associate; he would openly do like perform speeches, some of which like kind of implied violence on people. I think it was something about stringing up Hester McVeigh.
Oh, and I remember. Do you remember back? I don't know if you'd remember back in 2008 when the banking crisis happened. He was positively salivating at the mouth, saying this is the death of capitalism, and we shouldn't let this opportunity go to waste.
Yeah,
it's like half the.
Well, yeah, he's even interviewed by the BBC at one point and talked about how it was his role to as like shadow chancellor or eventually to become chancellor. It'd be his role to dismantle capitalism. Like he openly said that in an interview. So, like, no, I did not want that man being anywhere near power. But the point of all this is the Conservatives you would trust to handle this very, very differently. I don't like it when they try and shift blame onto, well, Labour would have done this, Labour would have done that. It's like, yes, Labour would have handled it terribly. But you're handling it terribly right now, and you're not handling it as a Conservative, and you're not handling it in the way the people who voted for you really approve of. Outside of the not even kind of Conservatives, but more Tories.
Yeah.
It's just an easier way of saying, there's a difference between a Conservative and a Tory. It's kind of like big C, little c conservatism.
Yep.
One is just more about loyalty to the party, because that's kind of what Toryism is. It's not really so much an ideology, but it's just how can we stay in power? And and the fact that they just push so many things that just don't sound in any way conservative. Like, they've now kind of given more details about bans on advertising quote unquote junk food, which by their own guidelines isn't just like burger and chips, but it can include things like honey and bacon and cheese and yogurt. Because they like
leave my bacon alone.
Yeah, so what when it comes to foods, like what are you ultimately allowed left to advertise? Just fruits and vegetables. Like that's literally that's it. Like at a time when so many businesses are struggling, particularly in the in the kind of like the catering sector, and you're putting forward legislation to limit their chances of kind of advertising what their business does. And you call yourself conservative, and you use language like world leading banning of adverts. Like it doesn't sound good. But I know that's nothing in compared to this actual bill, though. I know it's kind of almost a bit pedantic, but
it's nothing like it. But it's still. I mean, I'm free speech is an absolute for me.
Yeah.
And therefore advertising, I hate to say it, is also perfectly allowed of anything, but we're also allowed to criticize.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, good God, banning bacon in England is just unconstitutional, frankly.
I would agree, definitely.
They'll be banning beer next. I mean, what is this?
Beer does have quite a lot of calories in it. So I would assume that they would extend such a thing to include beer. Makes absolute sense that they would do that. Although
you can live on Guinness. It's basically food.
I do like Guinness. Guinness and black. Apparently, it's according to my boyfriend, like it's sacrilege, and he gets very embarrassed. Well, he would get embarrassed because we haven't been to a pub in so long. If I would ask him to get me a Guinness and black because he's from Ireland.
Oh,
and so like men in Ireland don't get a Guinness and black. They don't do it. So if he goes to the bar and he has to order a Guinness and black, he looks very sheepish, and I'm like, that is a delicious drink. Thank you.
Are we still alive?
Yeah, we're still alive. Why? What happened? Scrum?
What?
Yes, hello.
Yeah, we're still alive.
My internet took a massive shit for a second there.
Oh. That's weird. So do you have anything to add on this covert human intelligence sources bill?
Oh, not really. Just that the internet itself seems to be taking a massive shit today.
Yes.
I have my suspicions about that, but no, I'm just worried. It really does give people the authority to basically just yeet on site. Like you said, it's like the Environment Agency, food standards.
Yeah.
Basically anyone who's a quote unquote government agent. So
yeah, the list here is
not.
Was it the police for any police force, National Crime Agency, Serious Fraud Office, any of the intelligence services, Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs? So make sure you pay your taxes. Or
HMRC. HMRC here anyway.
The Competition and Markets Authority, Environment Agency, Financial Conduct Authority. So insider trading might be met with death, I guess. The Gambling Commission. It's literally any government agency can now just literally take you out into the street and shoot you in the head with no legal repercussions. And I sound hyperbolic, but as I said, there are tweets from the Parliament's Human Rights Commission saying almost exactly these words. It's terrifying. It is absolutely terrifying, and I could go into a really deep dive with it, but the bill is written as various line amendments to other acts. So it's pure legalese, and it would take hours and hours to go through. Well, they've changed this "and" into an "or," and that means this. You don't want me. Nobody wants me to do that.
The thing is, it's deliberately extremely sneaky legalese.
Yeah. I felt like my brain was melting after about 4 hours.
They're obviously trying to obfuscate what they're doing. But there's some very telling lines in there. Like they give examples even of immunity from prosecution, which are worrying. Like even within the text of the bill itself, which tries to hide what the text of the bill is, it's worrying. So it doesn't sit well with me. But
no.
Anyway, we have some more topics to get over.
Yes,
we do. And the thing is, the kind of topics that we've been talking about today are kind of a bit serious. So I think we need a good bit of goofiness, and I think YouTube is quite a it's quite a good avenue for some general goofiness. And so we have two kind of YouTube seals of news, which are not on the screen right now, although we do have the main seal of news. So, but one of the first things that we should kind of talk about, just because I was pulling up a little bit of information, is I think especially when it comes to like film reviews, is one of the main champions, Filmo Roberto.
That's not even Movie Bob though.
Is it not?
No. That's a joke.
No, they just looked at this.
It looks like him, but it's not. That's not actually him.
Oh my god!
You should get the Mario costume one.
Oh, video blob.
Oh yes. Filmo Roberto. Yes.
I genuinely thought that picture was him. Although to be fair, the Mario one's pretty amazing. Although I can't find the video where he's like jumping on turtles. Have I got the right one now?
Yes, you have.
God.
Oh God.
So did anyone see? It's quite an interesting exchange that Bob managed to get himself into. So I take it you guys have seen this. Scrump, I think
I've definitely seen it. Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So Scrump, do you want to tell everyone what had happened?
Filmo Roberto was trying to defend Lindsay Ellis. I'm getting too election feverish. He tried to defend Lindsay Ellis, who is I don't know, I guess a relevant former member of that guy with the glasses.
Yeah, she was the nostalgia chick.
She was nostalgia chick, yes.
And she now has
the female version of a male character, yes. Which is ironic in of itself if you look at some of the content. But yeah, she was the nostalgia chick, and she basically said, we've never been friends. I keep telling you not to do this. Please never talk to me again. Was the gist of what was said. Do you want to actually read what was on the screen though? Because it's kind of there's three. There was him saying this. There was the reply to it, and then there was basically two threads that he ended up deleting. I think I posted them both to you. Like he posted two semi-apology threads after this. Tell you what, I'll get it up and I'll read the actual exchange. I don't know the actual context here. There was quite a long thread, but yeah, it's even if what they said is true, what's wrong with having a group chat IMO? It's like it's not some secret nefarious thing. I hate group chats. It's nice. I have group chats. It's nice to have a place to talk. Basically, someone exposed the fact that there's this really weird bread tube sewing circle. Basically, it was like bread tube pros, like every game's in a pros.
Well, like Vouch and stuff like that.
Yeah. And they all get together and they all decide who they're gonna like excise from the group. And apparently there's all drama where some of them block each other for not being lefty enough. And
brilliant.
I think with Peter Coffin. Peter Coffin, the man with a fake wife, was involved in it. I think
that shouldn't surprise anyone that they do that. Like, of course, it's going
to deep law. Movie Bob posts. I, for one, am positively shocked. And posts an image of him with Lindsay Ellis at like a con or something. I think they met at like a convention. He took a picture. It's like one of those creepy pictures of dudes with internet personalities they like, though.
Yeah.
And then the reply from Lindsay Ellis is, "This is honestly really inappropriate and creepy. Dude, a selfie at a con several years ago does not mean we are friends. Also, the fact that I have soft blocked you like 6 times and you always refollow is creepy. Take the hint. Please leave me alone."
And then eventually, like, this is his. This is what he made after, because he ended up getting like into a load of shit because of that. But then he like his because he made two responses, like you said. Like, he deleted one load and then he put up another,
which he also deleted the other one too. He's deleted both of them.
Oh, he deleted both. So this is one of them. Earlier tonight, I was called out for a post that made a colleague uncomfortable. Colleague. So, like, she's basically saying, I have nothing to do with you. Stop making it out as though we are connected in any way. We're not friends. We're nothing. And then he just he makes a point about saying, oh, she is a colleague. And I think it is kind of in working logic, is that he is a YouTuber, she is a YouTuber, so therefore they work together. Yeah. You know, it's kind of like saying that I work with Movie Bob. I'm a colleague of Movie Bob.
You're a colleague. It was a colleague. A colleague was uncomfortable with this.
Yeah.
It's a really weird way of phrasing it.
It really is. Like, I would have thought, like, made someone uncomfortable, or even could he even use the word acquaintance?
I guess.
I mean, they know who each other are. They're not friends.
No, they are not friends.
No, but like, I just he made 2 different posts for it. I don't know whether this is the first one or the second one, because he's now locked his account. But it was weird kind of seeing the kind of stands that he had in his responses. Mostly kind of when he was being called out of using the phrase colleague.
Yeah,
like, a lot of them seem to be thinking like, no, he's perfectly in the right for doing it. They're both YouTubers, therefore that they are colleagues. But Movie Bob is like he's kind of like a more successful Chris Chan.
Almost. I wouldn't go that far, but almost.
Like, that kind of that exchange between Movie Bob and Lindsay made me think of a very specific photo. Let me just
I know exactly what you're about to post. Yes.
So it was a Twitter version of this.
Yeah.
Yes. I remember that. Very uncomfy, yes.
But then, like, before he locked down his account, I did notice that he was retweeting lots of people calling for basically new Nuremberg trials in America, designed to, you know, kind of persecute Trump supporters.
Yeah.
And that's mostly what the kind of thing that he's known for. You know, that his calls for a starship. If it weren't for like all the Republican,
where is my starship?
It's the one that he kind of goes on about how he earned it.
I earned my Why aren't we on a? Why is my jetpacks? We should be in space now. Instead, we have to look after Trump supporters. It's it's quite interesting the way his brain seems to function, but or not, depending on your point of view.
You're being kind for calling that functioning.
That was been generous.
Yes.
But
it's nice to be nice.
So like Movie Bob isn't necessarily like kind of connected to us really, except for the fact that we kind of laugh at him. But he's a lol cow. He's a lol cow. Do we want to talk about some cringe a bit closer to home?
We can do, yeah.
Where's it gone? Oh, god damn it. It's just had it up as well. There it is. So I'm not sure how many people are aware of this. So Papa Boomer has basically, he's kind of like retiring like the whole Sargon brand, taken down, like he was initially going to take down his YouTube channels, but I think he's decided against it, and he's taken down like Teespring and stuff. But then he starts a new kind of podcast called Lotus Eaters. And I really hate that name.
It's not a good name, is it?
It is not a good name. It is a really, really bad name.
Poor
it's so bad.
Considering where it comes from, too, the fact that it's about a bunch of lazy people.
Yes.
Who sit around
ignore the real world.
Ignore the real world, yeah.
Poor Sargon. I mean, I feel for him. I know he's got a lot of money riding on this and so on, and it's got to be stressful for him. But oh boy,
yeah, like it seems like a good idea. Like I get why he's doing it and why he kind of wants to make more of that.
Yeah, he wants to make his own platform, and
which is great.
Get it.
It's just great, but the fucking name. It's just the name. Like
the name is not good.
Like you said, if like most people are just going to be really confused. It doesn't roll off the tongue. And if you do know what it means, it makes it sound so much worse. So for the people who don't know what a lotus eater is, basically, I believe it comes from the Odyssey, I think.
It comes from the Odyssey, yeah.
It's Homer's Odyssey, yeah.
Yeah, so it relates to like these people who eat fruits from these lotus plants, or is it the lotus tree?
It's the lotus tree, and it's narcotic, so they basically get high and sit there eating this and think deep thoughts and ignore the rest of the world.
Yeah, it's kind of almost like kind of laziness and ignorance to everything else which is going on around you. It is effectively what the term of a lotus eater is. And so you're naming your political streaming, like your political podcast after ignorance. Like this really is handing your critics weapons. Like it's just so like I've listened, I've watched a few of the videos, and like I actually like the format, and I think it's again
not bad. It's just
I think it's a really good idea. It's just the name.
Yeah, the name's not very good.
The name is what it is, and you know it wouldn't take much to just sort of create a new URL and turn it into a proxy and rebrand it in the future if he wanted to, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's that nobody knows what it is, and well, that meme. I'm sorry, but
those who do know what it is. I think it's even worse.
Yeah, literally that. But I have to say, flappy-headed Canadian version of Sargon is best Sargon, because I love that picture.
Oh, Canadian Sargon. Yeah, Canadian Sargon is best Sargon.
I did love how he made a Twitter poll asking people if they liked the name. I think it's like 70% said no, and he was like, "Well, I can't. Well, it's staying anyway." It's like, why run the poll? Oh god! Like I just wanted to bring. I did just kind of want to bring this up because, like, I think it's a good. I think like the premise behind it is again really really good.
Yeah, you know what? He deserves a little bit of ribbing, but it's all in good humor. Everyone's. Yeah. I mean, we all want him to do really really well out of this. I'm sure.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he's released it and the site doesn't work, and poor chap. He's having some real serious launch issues with this one, and
kind of got a feel for the Papa Boomer.
Oh, you got to feel for him. He's been there for a long time, and he knows self promotion. He can. I'm sure he will make it run.
He'll make it run.
He can drive a drive custom through a website. I'm sure, but he's got to be stressed out at the moment, poor chap. But yes, he deserves a bit of bully at least.
Bully, big bully.
The big bully. So, Scrump, before we went on, before we continue, there are some more super chats that I do need to
I'll go for it.
Read out, because I think I was about to start reading them before. Mr. Twisty Frenzy with their €5. Oi, Scrump, you got any more of them white pills? It's been a few days and I'm crashing, man. I'm crashing hard.
I'm trying.
Them sweet, sweet white pills. Frederic with the 20 SEK, make trans healthcare great again. Yes, we do need to make it great again, and we need to make it great by going on the private route, not government mandated vaginas.
No government mandated vaginas. No.
Miss Kai with the $9.99. Thank you. What they don't seem to get is if it isn't a medical condition, then transition surgeries / hormones become cosmetic procedures which no insurance covers. Exactly. But they kind of live in this weird fantasy world of they want to get rid of the medical aspect because they see it as a stigma. Well, that's one of the angles. The other one is, well, not everyone has dysphoria, but they still want to medically transition for some stupid reason. So therefore, just get rid of it so people's feelings aren't hurt. But they never think about the repercussions. Hell, when they talk about having, when you self-opt in to taking hormones or whatever, you should just be able to go to your GP and your GP prescribes hormones because you say so. They just kind of want to be able to go get them over the counter. So you were getting, paracetamol, which again is a really dumb idea.
That is not a good idea, no.
But they don't they don't think about any of that because they seem to assume that everyone who's going to do it is going to be doing it in good faith. Which is incredibly ignorant. It's incredibly dangerous, and it's why when you try and talk to them about it, they'll use a lot of emotional language. They'll often use phrases like, "Oh, you're denying our existence," you're stopping us from existing. When they were existing just fine before.
Yeah, it's like you existed fine before. I'm not sure it invalidates your. It's a really weird way to put it.
Well, it's a way of emotional blackmail. Pure and simple.
Suppose,
what they want to do is intrinsically tie their literal existence with any kind of criticism of their position. And as soon as they do that, and they can just basically try and make it out as though you want to send them over to camps or do some sort of systematic wipeout of trans people, then for some people, that's enough to kind of make them stop questioning it because they'll just think, oh, it's a slippery slope. 1 minute, I'm questioning the need for neopronouns. The next, it's off onto the trains with you.
Yeah,
hell, a lot of these people argue from a very, very disingenuous position. Anyway, the other day, I kind of got into a bit of an argument with people about a trans umbrella, which is this concept of trans people. Trans is this concept that could cover all sorts of gender variants, and what that actually covers varies from person to person and institution to institution. And normally, the more woke they are, the more inclusive their umbrella is. Hell, it's if you're following an intersectional mindset, it therefore makes it or intersectional mindset combined with complete self-identification. That is, in order to be trans, you just need to say you are. Then the trans umbrella absolutely is open to everyone and everything. But because so many different places kind of define it themselves, they almost kind of go the same route when it comes to talking about ideologies of BLM or Antifa, where they don't have any obvious centralized leadership role, and they can just say, well, it's more of an idea. And so they don't take any kind of responsibility in the actual pushing of what that ideology means. And so they'll try and get into arguments of semantics, being, well, this person doesn't believe this thing. How dare you try and claim Like, I had one person I was arguing with the other week was trying to say, like, oh, how dare you claim that like cross dressers are a part of the trans umbrella? When I asked them whether or not they agree with it, they wouldn't answer. And it's like, that's interesting. Like, you're effectively condemning me for pointing out the absurdities of your ideology. But it's, a lot of it is very, very, very disingenuous, and I think it's very very, very purposeful. But that's what they do. Like, they don't really want people to nail down exactly what their position is. It's kind of like a fly darting around everywhere, and it can be quite hard to swat. But as soon as you effectively corner it and get it, then you just need to do one swack, and it falls apart. And I think that's the way a lot of them argue. And it's why I try not to have discussions much with them anymore, because you regularly see the rhetoric that comes out, which they never condemn. And when you try and point them out on it, they'll always try and effectively use a Mott and Bailey argument, being like, oh, no, that's not what we actually mean. When really it is what they mean. They just know it's stupid and try and avoid it because they know that that's the big gotcha. But anyway, I kind of feel a little bit of topic there.
It's fine. Completely understandable.
Yeah, EC90 with the £2 again. Thank you. I'm worried Diabito is going to off himself now.
Oh, Fuck, the Diabito thing from EFAP is great. I love the whole Diabito thing. That's his evil, like super villain persona.
Oh, God.
Fucking Diabito.
I couldn't actually.
So good.
Like, I actually found it difficult to follow the whole the Lindsay Ellis thing, because Lindsay Ellis actually has me blocked on Twitter.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I've never tweeted her. I've never tweeted her at all.
It's no loss. Lindsay Ellis once made an entire documentary about her abortion that literally never mentioned the unborn child like once. It was all about her. It's possibly the most narcissistic piece of media I have ever seen.
Oh God, I completely forgot all about that.
I didn't.
I'm someone that's relatively pro-choice as well, and even that kind of creeps me out.
Between that, the whole Lena Durham, I wish I had an abortion, and the whole shout your abortion thing. I used to be a lot more pro-choice, and now I'm like, man,
a lot of that stuff kind of challenges. And you hear arguments, people are just using it as birth control. Oh no, they're not. And then you had that weird Netflix show posted by that woman who did this like abortions for everyone bit.
Yeah,
that was like really, really unfunny. But it was basically, it's like, no, like the people I know who have had abortions found it a really difficult process to go through.
It's like a harrowing thing that requires a lot of medical and psychological support.
Yes, you have these people acting as though it's almost like a flippant choice. But again, it's another problem with the left. Is a lot of abortion advocates don't acknowledge that. It's the kind of thing that a pro-lifer can easily just point out and say, "Look, see." They don't take it seriously. They just see it, but the response is always like, "Oh, don't focus on them. Don't focus on the people.
Don't look over there. Don't look over there. There's that thing over there. Don't look at it."
Yeah, but again, it's something which they're never consistent with, because like whenever they talk about Trump supporters being Nazis, they'll find someone posting something about the Jews or black people or whatever.
Yes.
And that's the Trump supporter. But when it goes the other way around, they never
take an example of that. I'm like, look at Trump, he's such a Nazi, and just like what?
Such a transphobe.
I can't believe he's so transphobic. Then I'm like, but my girlfriend's literally trans. Then they're like, yo, you just sexualize trans people. And then I'm like, well, I think my girlfriend would be very upset if I didn't. So what's wrong with you people? Are you guys okay? It's just
they're really not.
I see that argument a lot, and I'm just like, what? Well, I guess you could think that if you're stupid. I don't know, man. It's they always do though. You're right. They always do find the one guy who's like shitposting. Or what they'll do is a lot of them will create an account. Like you'll see an account that's like 10 days old with no avatar. It's like, look, see, they said the exact same thing. I said they would, and then it's just like, did you make that, my dude? Did you make that? Because it kind of looks like you made that.
So
but anyway,
I think we need a bit of good news.
We do need a bit of good news.
If I remember, yes, I do. And so you had some really good news. I did. It's very cute news. Sorry, I accidentally closed it, so I'm now scrolling up to where I posted it.
No, there it is. There it is. It's the
look at him.
Yes, scientists discovered 2 new marsupial species in Australia. Look at it. Look at
him.
The greater glider. He's like a big squirrel possum thing.
Look at him.
He is really cute.
Look at him. That is ridiculously cute. Like it doesn't look real.
No, it doesn't. It looks like a prop in like a Jim Henson thing. It looks like it's from like the Dark Crystal.
Yeah. Oh, it's so cute. I want one in my garden.
Yeah, you can just have one hanging on the tree there. Apparently, they thought there was only 1 species of them, but there's 2 species of this. They discovered 2 new marsupial species. Australia's biodiversity just got richer, which I don't know. It almost feels like the biodiversity just got 10 feet higher there. But scientists have long speculated the glider might be several species, although there was never sufficient proof. There were hints of differences in size, color, and physiology. But I think they've. I don't know what the other one is here. I think it was only that they managed to speciate these greater gliders. But there's a lot more variety than they thought. And there's now 3 species. Sorry, it's they knew about them already, but they found out that instead of 1 species, it's 3. So they discovered 2 new variety of this. Sorry, I'm getting the story mixed up here. 2 new variety of this of the greater glider. But it is extremely cute. Look at it. Look at how fuzzy it is. It's
unbelievably cute. Like it might not take over the harp seal, the baby seals, but it is ridiculously cute. I mean, like that's cuter than a quokka. Quokkas, of course, are really, really shit. But I have some good news as well.
Yes,
giant
seal. I would say thank you for the super chat there. Sorry to interrupt there, but I saw the Oz gang represent.
Yes, Alexander Solheim.
I'm not saying that shit.
That's Solzhenitsyn. That's Solzhenitsyn. How do you know?
Solzhenitsyn. Haven't you read Solzhenitsyn? Don't you know about the dragon? I couldn't read. Yeah, it is Solzhenitsyn. Sorry, I'm philosophy fail there. I haven't even read Loki.
There's this there's a big seal. They found a big seal. So this is the big seal. They found a fossilized big seal in New Zealand. Basically, scientists assumed that seals evolved around the Arctic Circle, but actually, with the discovery of this ancient seal, seals might have actually evolved closer towards Antarctica. So this is groundbreaking news in the world of seal evolution. But as you can see, there's a painting there of a big seal chasing after some fibs, and that's our seal of the week. Our seal of the week is a giant seal, a prehistoric seal. Like it's not often you get a prehistoric seal, and that's. That is legendary. Now, I forgot to make a straw poll this week, unfortunately, guys.
I think there's only 3 of us, so let's do it. Let's do it like the heathen kings of old. Let us do shout outs in chat.
Yes. So type out who you think should get the this week's seal of approval.
Yes, we'll do the old shout out system.
Yes. Like I was a bit scatterbrained this afternoon.
Oh no, it's fine. It's been a good stream anyway. We still have even though it's been moved around and jostled around, we still had a good consistent 250 people watching for a lot of this. So thanks for coming out, guys. Thanks for the super chats. We do read them all. So thanks for supporting the stream, guys. Thanks for supporting Rose during this difficult period. And Trump's going to get inaugurated. He really is. You'll see. You'll see. Oh dear.
So just type in the chat whether you think it should be Rose, Scrump, or Trig.
Yes.
Here we go. Rose, Scrump, Dev.
Dev.
There's a vote for Trig.
There's a vote for Trig.
There's your sympathy. No, there's a vote for Trig.
Sympathy vote indeed. Yeah, thanks.
There's another vote for Trig. Sargon.
Sargon. No, don't.
Carl,
don't vote for Sargon. Sargon's in the naughty corner eating lotuses.
Rose, Scrump, Rose. I think I would say it's going to go to Scrump, but I'm a close second.
Yes.
So Scrump, you're the seal of approval. You're the presumed seal of approval elect.
I'm seal of approval elect. I'm going to start picking cabinet positions. Yeah, I'm going to calling world leaders, even though I haven't been certified yet.
So this. I think that's we're probably towards the end of tonight's stream, but. For those who might not have seen, I did an update video on Tuesday, just kind of explaining about what my current situation is. So I know last week I talked about, I was going to get a video out for next Tuesday, but my current situation is actually making it very difficult to have the time to put out the videos because I'm busy with my current job and I've stupidly chosen this time to work on some really deep dive videos. So there's a lot of research and not a lot of time to do anything else.
I have one last thing before we leave.
Yeah.
I mentioned at the beginning of the stream the UKIP candidate for London Mayor.
Oh God, yes, you did.
I'll just send you. Just you got to read this guy's name.
It's great
because it's amazing.
Right.
He's literally called Dr. Peter Gammons.
Okay, now.
And I made a little meme of him there.
Gammons.
I really hope they picked him just for the name. I'm sure he's a very capable man, but damn, that's running with the meme. That is.
He's Dr. Gammons of South Med.
Well, the UKIP has a habit of picking people with rather interesting names. There wasn't Richard Brain.
Dick Brain.
Dick Brain.
Oh God, UKIP was falling apart so badly.
They're
just destroyed it.
They're a dead party, but
Sargon destroyed them.
Sargon, if you're listening, join the Conservatives next, or maybe Labour.
I will defend Sargon on that. I will defend Sargon.
I know you didn't. I know you didn't. It's just a meme. It's just a meme.
It's just a meme, bro. Why are you mad? It's just a meme.
Oh. Yes, poor UKIP. That wasn't their fault. Well, it was actually, but
it's just a meme, bro.
So yeah, as I was saying, the next video will be out as soon as it can be. I don't think it will be next Tuesday. I know it's taking a while, but please bear with me. I really appreciate all your support through this. People, especially people like you guys who are tuning into Seal of Approval, because I do really enjoy doing this. I enjoy reading all your all everything in the chat and your super chats and getting to chat and chill with my friends. And it's all fun. It's all fun.
Fun.
Yeah, so seal of approval will be back as usual next week, probably Wednesday again, unless unless it gets changed to a Thursday. But otherwise, I want to thank Trig for coming on again. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Oh, you're great as always, and a special thanks to my trusty co-host Scrumb.
I am the Scrumb man. Yes, the Scrumbs will be had.
Yes.
It's good to be here. Thanks for tuning in, guys. It's always a pleasure.
So thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll see you all next week. You can make sure to follow me on Twitter and stuff if you don't, because there is Seal Saturday. If you follow me on Twitter, there's Seal Saturday, where I post pictures of seals on Saturday. You don't want to miss that.
But it is
stunning name.
Yeah, you don't want to miss Seal Saturday. But yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.